Hello. Welcome again as we continue to look at evidences supporting the historical reliability of the Bible. We have spoken thus far about evidences supporting Old Testament people and events, but we don't want to leave the New Testament out either. This week, we'll begin to look at a few evidences of the historical reliability of the New Testament. In earlier centuries, primarily in the 17 and 1800s, skeptics said that the New Testament was written mostly in the 2nd and 3rd centuries and was not an historically reliable document. Archaeological discoveries and historical documents prove otherwise. One of the primary targets of critics of the New Testament was the book of Acts. For example, in Acts chapter 17, Paul and his companions were at Thessalonica. Now, when they had passed through Amphipolis and Apollonia, they came to Thessalonica. They converted many there, and the Jews were jealous and tried to bring Paul and Silas out before a riotous crowd. We read this. But the Jews were jealous, and taking some wicked fellows of the rabble, they gathered a crowd, set the city in an uproar, and attacked the house of Jason, seeking to bring them out to the people. And when they could not find them, they dragged Jason and some of the brethren before the city authorities, crying, "These men who have turned the world upside down have come here also. And Jason has received them, and they are all acting against the decrees of Caesar, saying that there is another king, Jesus." And the people and the city authorities were disturbed when they heard this. And when they had taken security from Jason and the rest, they let them go. The term translated as city authorities, which other versions may translate as city officials or rulers of the city, is the word Polytarcs. The term was at one time not known from classical Greek literature. Because of this, critics said that the author of the book didn't know what he was talking about, and that Polytarch was a term that perhaps he had made up. However, in 1867, an inscription using this term was found on a 1st or 2nd century AD Roman arch called the Vardar Arch. It is significant that the town where the Vardar Arch is located is Thessalonica, where Luke, the author of the book of Acts, used the term. Not as important, but also interesting, are some of the names in the inscription on the Vardar Arch. Names like Sosipatros, Lucius, Secundus, and Gaius. We see these names used in the New Testament, verifying that these names were in common use in the 1st century. One of these names, Secundus, was borne by a man in the New Testament who was a native of Thessalonica. Not only has Polytarch confirmed to be the correct term, but the proof and some of the names associated with the proof center around the city of Thessalonica, where Luke used the term in the book of Acts. Let's look at another piece of evidence. When Paul wrote the book of Romans, he was in the city of Corinth. In Romans chapter 16 and verse 23, we read this. Gaius, who is host to me and to the whole church, greets you. Erastus, the city treasurer, and our brother Quartus greet you. Erastus is also mentioned in Acts chapter 19, verse 22, as being one of Paul's helpers. He is also mentioned in 2 Timothy chapter 4 and verse 20, where it is noted that he remained at Corinth. Erastus, which was a relatively uncommon name in ancient Greek literature, was an important city official in Corinth. In 1929, an inscription was found in the city of Corinth near a paved area. The inscription says, Erastus, in return for his aedileship, paved it at his own expense. The word aedileship refers to a public office held by an aedile. An aedile was a public official in charge of public works. The Erastus inscription in Corinth dates to the mid-1st century AD, around or perhaps a few years earlier than when the book of Romans was written. It refers to an important city official in Corinth in the mid-1st century AD by the relatively uncommon name of Erastus. The book of Romans refers to an important city official in the city of Corinth in the mid-1st century AD by the relatively uncommon name of Erastus. Although we can't say definitely that these are the same person, it seems likely that they are. Speaking of Corinth, we'll look at one more piece of evidence regarding the historical reliability of the Bible. In the book of Acts, while Paul was in Corinth, we read this. But when Gallio was proconsul of Achaia, the Jews made a united attack upon Paul and brought him before the tribunal. Gallio, whose more formal name was Lucius Junius Gallio Annianus, is referred to as a proconsul. It was known from Roman sources that he was a Roman senator and the brother of the famous Roman writer Seneca. However, there was no record in any other text of his being a proconsul. But in the early 1900s, archaeological excavations at the Temple of Apollo at Delphi, Greece, found 9 fragments of a public reproduction of a letter from the Emperor Claudius to the citizens of the area. In the fragments was found the Emperor Claudius saying the following: "My friend and proconsul, L. Junius Gallio." Information from the inscription, known as the Delphi inscription or the Gallio inscription, allows us to date the proconsulship of Gallio to 51 to 52 AD, which dovetails nicely with the timeline in the book of Acts. For centuries, the only place where one could know that Gallio, the Roman senator and brother of Seneca, was also a proconsul of Achaia was in the book of Acts. In spite of its critics, the book of Acts was proven to be historically reliable. I hope that you'll join us again next week as we look at more evidences for the historical reliability of the Bible.